Update on the fatal shooting of a man in Wyoming. Let's listen in.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon. First, I'd like to thank the Sheriff's Department for conducting a thorough investigation in a timely manner. I have reviewed the reports, the body-worn cameras. I visited the scene and observed the officers' interviews. The sole focus of my review is whether the officers' actions were reasonable based on the facts and circumstances. On January 30th of 2023, shortly after midnight, Wyoming Police Department dispatched officers to Durrell Avenue for a burglary in progress. When the officers arrived, they encountered two individuals in the rear of an apartment building, later identified as Joe Frazier Jr., date of birth June 3rd, 1994, and his father Joseph Frazier Sr., date of birth May 27, 1970. Frazier Sr. was standing on the driveway near a gray minivan. The son, Frazier Jr., was behind the wheel of a minivan when the officers approached the rear of the building. Officers shouted multiple commands to both Fraziers to stop, put their hands in the air, exit the vehicle, and get on the ground. Frazier Jr. failed to comply with any command. Frazier Jr., in an attempt to get away, pulled his vehicle in reverse, accelerated, and crashed into a tree. The officers continued to shout commands for him to stop and get out of the car. Frazier Jr. still remained non-compliant. He put the car in drive, quickly accelerated, and drove his vehicle straight at the officers. After nearly striking one officer, Frazier then steered his vehicle in the direction of the other two officers. The officers continued to shout commands to stop while barely escaping danger of being struck and potentially killed. In an act of self-defense, both officers discharged their service weapons, approximately 3 to 4 rounds in total at the suspect as the vehicle sped within feet of them. Several shots struck the vehicle, and at least one shot struck Frazier. The vehicle then crashed into the side of the apartment building. Meanwhile, Frazier Sr. fled on foot and was apprehended several blocks away. Immediately following the crash, the officers began life-saving measures on Frazier Jr. until paramedics arrived and then transported him to University of Cincinnati Medical Center. Frazier Jr. succumbed to his injuries on January 31st of 2023. At the time of the offense, Frazier Jr. was on probation in Indiana for a felony battery, victim under the age of 14, and had an active probation violation warrant. He also was on parole in Kentucky for manufacturing methamphetamine and had an active parole violation for absconding. At the time of the offense, Frazier Sr. had a warrant for his arrest relating to a misdemeanor theft charge from December of 2022. These officers should be commended for their bravery. What happened that night is a testament to their strength and their training. There is no doubt that these officers reasonably feared for their lives, which is why they will not be charged.